Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Candid Conversations. I'm your host, Cynthia Maxie Milton. This show is designed to inform, uplift, and inspire you. And today we're continuing our conversation with our very special guest, Carol Marber, who is a recording member of the Grammy Recording Academy. She is also the founder of the Blues Society, the Mississippi Blues Society, and she's also the owner of Mississippi Delta Records. But she doesn't do it alone. She has someone to help her along the way. He's her rock, her first love, her standby, her advocate. He's her hubby, Ron Marble. And he joins us today. Welcome both of you to the second part of our conversation here on Candid Conversations. Now, if you haven't seen the first part of our conversation, I highly encourage you to go watch. Carol shares her amazing story how in her mid-50s, she started a new career where she blazed a trail in the music, in the blues industry, in the recording industry. It's a fascinating story. But long before she and Ron got into the music industry, they had a whole life. They met as teenagers. They fell in love. They got married. And they achieved the American dream. They had their own manufacturing plant. They sent their kids to college. They did the right thing. They were in their mid-40s and they thought the rest of life was going to be sweet. And you know what happened? They lost everything. They had to start all over. Theirs is a story of triumph and tragedy, of resilience, of hard work, and achieving again. If you've ever pursued a dream and had a setback, if you ever had something happen in your life that just seemed like it may not be a way to recover, or if you're trying to get back now, or if you know someone else who's doing that, this show is for you. Like, share with them. Carol and Ron, welcome back to Candid Conversations.
Well,
Ron, welcome to Candid Conversations.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
It's great to have you both here. So let's just start with where your story started. You all grew up mid-century Mississippi. You were teenagers, and how did you meet? You met at Westland Plaza at Shoney's Big Boy Restaurant.
That's right.
Tell us about that. You're both native Jacksonians.
Yeah, well, I'm a native Jacksonian. She was born in New Orleans but raised in Jackson. I was born and raised in Jackson.
Okay.
I'm a little bit older Jacksonian than she is.
Yes, about a year. My family moved.
That's true.
Okay, native Jacksonian and transplant.
Yeah.
Stand corrected.
Yeah. So, yes, we both went through the educational system here in Jackson.
You were Central High School, you were Murrah?
Yes. But my brothers had gone to Central.
Okay.
So, and Murrah wasn't open then until I came along, and then Murrah opened up, and I was in that school district, so that's where I went to school. And I met her out at Shoney's, and I finally got a date with her, and we started dating. And I guess part of my stuff has always been I'm a very stubborn person, extremely stubborn. And the biggest thing to do is tell me you can't, and then I'm going to prove to you that I can. Yes, there's a way of doing it. So that was the beginning of everything, and we went from there. We're getting. I went to Millsaps for my BA degree, and went through 1 year, and then in the second year, I decided that Carol and I needed to get married.
And I think we have some pictures of you guys from back when you were youngins.
Oh,
You're
yes.
right. So,
very young.
So anyway, we got married, and we wanted to be on the campus there at Millsaps, but they didn't have any married students except for Carol and I. So we wound up getting a place that was normally for a faculty member because it was vacant. So that's where we stayed while I went through college over there. Mm-hmm. And Carol was I guess I'm going to say trying to get to some points here to cover because there's a lot in my life I have done and she's done. But I encouraged her to go to college because I was going to get a degree. And I knew I was going to get a degree. With her help, I'd get that degree. And but I wanted her to have a degree because she was very intelligent. And she didn't come out of a background of being prepared for college. but she took entry grades, test, and she got higher than most people ever get. She got a scholarship to go, and so we decided that she would also get a degree. So I've always supported her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been very supportive from the very beginning. Yes.
But you got a little emotional there. What? There was something that kind of touched your heart there. Tell me about that. But this is candid conversations. Be honest. Be open.
Well, things for she and I started off fairly rough from the very beginning. My father had paid for the education for college for my two older brothers, and he told me if I got married that he had the money, but he wasn't going to pay for mine. Wow. So I said, okay, I'm still getting married. So he did. He didn't pay for anything. So we ran up quite a debt. For the first few years in our marriage, the most money we spent was trying to pay back the educational loans. But it was, I guess, I just wanted our relationship to be good.
I think that you told me back then, and I will jump in here, but some people marry and then there's something that stands between them, and he felt like the education that I might come along at some point and resent the fact that he had the degree. I didn't have a degree. It wasn't so much that he had it and whatever, but he wanted me to always feel like that I was able to have that degree as he had his, that I wasn't held back for any reason. He came from a family that they all had educational degrees and that type of thing. I came from a family that I was the first one that ever went to college and got a degree. You were the first
college grad in your family.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was important to him, that I would never feel like I hadn't been able to do that.
That's so different for that era, because for the many middle-class white women in the 50s and 60s were housewives.
That's right.
A number of black women were housewives. It was not uncommon for women to stay in the home, and a lot of men didn't want women in the workplace. So you were a different kind of guy to just really want this for her.
Well, mainly
in that era.
I was doing it because of her self-esteem. I wanted her to maintain a self-esteem. Regardless of whether she ever used the education or not, it was the idea that she tried, she did it, and she, had a degree like everybody else. What she was going to do with a degree was going to be, well, you may not ever do anything with a degree. I went to college and all, and got a master's degree out at Mississippi College, and my goal was that I wanted to teach on a college level. And then things changed, I had Vietnam War, and they were drafting everybody, so it was always, would I be able to stay in college, or were they going to yank me and send me out? So that was always there.
And I'm going to move it on a little bit because we only have about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
But the love of that, you just love this woman and you just wanted the best for her is what I'm seeing. No wonder she said when you all finally went out, she said, I'm keeping him. He's not going anywhere. And no wonder why, because your heart is just so tender towards her. Who wouldn't love a man that loved them like that? So that's just a wonderful thing to see. But you go on, you guys get married, you struggle through all that debt, and you go into the work world, you do well, you become the head of some plants, and you get your own manufacturing plant right here in Mississippi, your very own. You build your dream house. You get a loan and you build your dream house, and you get this plant, and you're doing well. The kids are out of the house, they're off to college. And then the unthinkable happens.
Yes, we had taken property up there from Jimmy Dean, and he'd never wanted to sell it, and he sold it to us.
Now, is this the same Jimmy Dean that owns the sausage?
Yes, yeah. He had the property, and it was on the corner of the highway and another highway, very sought after, but he would not sell the property. So, being person I am, I finally got his phone number and called him, talked to him, said I wanted to buy that property. And I gave him all the reasons what I was doing. He said, okay. So we went to the bank, got a loan on it, because that property had been sought after for years and years and years, and he always told him no, he wasn't going to sell it. It was abandoned, it wasn't doing anything, but he was not going to sell. So that's how we wound up with the property. We started a business, we was doing very well. And then the bank had to get them to approval. What was that thing, Carol?
Small business.
Small business thing again, and they refused to do it.
Yeah.
They said, well, not only we're going to fail to do it, but we're demanding that you pay your debt now.
They called the loan on
They
you.
called the loan in on us because they wanted that property. So there went everything, and we had everything up.
Because they had
against
somebody
that
else in the scene that
Right.
wanted the property. They had a little bit of influence.
Oh yeah, they were going to sell it till people were going to put in something like Six Flags.
So they called that debt knowing that that was your livelihood.
Yeah.
And you lost your home,
Everything.
your dream home, your livelihood, and in your 40s now find yourself starting all over.
That's
true.
right.
Yeah.
And so, what did you do? I thought it was very interesting, your process, when that happened, your thought process of where we go from here. What did you guys think, and what did you do once you realized that you were losing your home and your business to no fault of your own, because you weren't late on your loan or anything. It was just that somebody else wanted what you had.
They called the loan
They just
in.
wanted
We
it
weren't
all.
late, never missed payment. They just called the loan in.
Yeah.
Well, you go into survival mode. You know, it's such a shock at first, and it continues to be that. But you have to go. You have to go into some kind of survival mode. Obviously, it's there's really no other answer except what I do now. So he had to go back and look for a job back in the industry that he had been so successful in. And that took us away from Mississippi, where we
Out to California.
been all of our married life, and we wound up in California. So, and you start over, so you start assessing how many years is this going to take me, maybe to get back, and maybe I never will. So that's what it is. You kind of step out into the unknown at that point, and you know that you're not going back to the same thing that's gone.
That's gone.
So it takes a while, I guess, anytime you have that type of thing, to accept it. You go through a process of grieving for what isn't there anymore, to what can I do now, But the skills, I guess, that we had, and of course our relationship and how much
That's the most important thing.
we cared about each other and what we'd done, we just started to try to do it again, just start over.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to really support each other with whatever comes along, because when it gets down to it, it's you and your sufficient, your wife or your husband. It's the couple that makes the difference, because your family may or may not come to your aid. A lot of it depends on their ability to do it, but you've got a partner, and you support each other, because you know that there is somebody that loves you.
And I just wanted to talk about that because, this last 3 years, people are dealing with a lot. They have gone through a lot. And I found your conversation so interesting because when I talked to you, there was a book that came out a long time ago. It was called Who Moved My Cheese? Okay. And one of the things it talks about is it kind of gave cheese being the analogy of your provision. Mm-hmm. And some people just say, okay, well, this cheese is here every day, and they just kind of get comfortable. But there are other rats, so to speak, who always have their tennis shoes on, and if they see the cheese shifting, they just get up quick and go look for some more cheese. Mm-hmm. They don't just get stuck. And what I heard you say, you first of all looked at what do we have left. I remember you thinking you've lost your livelihood, a plant. Most people never build a plant in their lifetime. I mean, I know that had to take a lot of hard work, and it had to hurt to lose it. But you said you decided to look at what you had left and what it will take to get back to where you wanted to go to, and you accepted that you wouldn't have that wouldn't look exactly like what you had before. And I think that's sage advice for anyone who has gone through something, is going through something, and if you're not, you will go through something.
Yeah.
And so you did, and you were willing to find a new normal. You were willing to leave and not try to find some more cheese where you were. You looked for other opportunities. Y'all got up. You moved to California. That opportunity eventually dried up. You moved to Florida. They went on to work in places like Jamaica.
Jamaica.
And then you went to Indianola. And so you came from Nassau. Was it Jamaica or was it the Bahamas first?
Well, we were in the Bahamas first.
So you went to the Bahamas.
And then came back to...
So you're in the Bahamas, where everybody wants to vacate. You're living in the vacation land.
Exactly.
So you're back in the dream again, doing well, and then you get told you're going to the heart of the Mississippi Delta.
That was different.
Yeah.
It really was. Very different. It was, after being in Paradise Island and all of that kind of thing, it was very different moving back to Mississippi and back to the Delta.
What year was this?
90, what was it? I don't remember.
Late 90s, early 2000s?
2002, 98, 99, somewhere in there.
Okay.
99,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, 99, 2000, because that's when I got into the blues, around 2002.
Okay.
So it was right in that
Yeah.
period of time, yeah. But, well, the Delta, it was a wonderful experience for us. We really enjoyed it, and I wouldn't change anything about it in looking back on it, and it's a very special part of the world. It's as special as Nassau. It's different. I think that's the thing about it. There are so many places in this world they're all special, but you have to understand they're different. It's a different type of special. You can't really expect things to be the same as where you were, but you have to look for that magic in wherever it is that you happen to be. And it's there everywhere because people are everywhere, and that's where the magic comes from. It comes from the people and those relationships and their culture and all of that kind of thing. So if you're open to that, then the world is a very special place.
But there was a common thread, too, that I think has contributed to you all's success. A lot of people would have been in Bahamas and said, I'm going to this rural area, but you looked for the splendor and ways to bloom wherever you were planted. When you went to California, it was very different from Mississippi, but you looked at the things that were interesting and engaging about California that you could embrace and love. And then when you went to the Bahamas, well, what's not to love about that? That was easy. But then, coming back from somewhere like that to rural Mississippi could be very challenging for most people. But you looked for the splendor in the midst of that, and you found it because you were looking for it. And someone says, if you look around the room and you look for everything that's brown. You might tell me, but then you didn't see the things that were green or red because you were looking for, the brown. And so you looked for the splendor, there, and you found it. And it led you to a whole new life where you started in these blues and this blues society and management and your record company and just a whole second chapter in your life, which we'll get back to. But I also want to take a little trip back because in the Bahamas, you got this phenomenal opportunity, again, in a world that you don't often see as many women in dealing with trade and policy. Talk to us about that.
Well, yes, it was interesting experience. I had a background in history and from Belhaven University, and had a great interest in world economies and that type of thing. At that period of time, globalization was the buzzword everywhere, and I found out that there was an effort to set up a Western Hemisphere that was similar to the European Union, and so because this was going on, it was like the free trade agreement of the Americas. There was going to be a meeting of 34 countries. Summit
down
in South America. And all of the prime ministers, presidents of all of these countries were going to participate, and they were sending a committee from each country. And they were going to thrash out, how are we going to do this? What's it going to be like? Well, no one knew anything about what was going on. And the people that he worked with were, one of the men had some experience with this in Canada, and I was asked to put together the information to prepare this committee to go and talk about what they wanted to have happen for their country. So it was a unique opportunity, and I got to do a lot of research and into the globalization process and the free trade agreements, and put together this package for them, and they went to
Again,
talk
something
and
not
present
many
it.
many women did particularly back in the 90s. Things were changing, but back then that was very different.
Well,
It's something new you hadn't
She
done.
put in a thing for
Yeah,
the
around
Delta
the
because the
time.
Delta in itself is so different than the rest of Mississippi. She wanted it treated like a small
economy country.
economy, like they were doing in those meetings they were having, because they got special treatment. The
And you
small
did it so
economies
well.
did.
You all then went to Indianola. He then gets a job in Jamaica,
Yes.
and the people in Jamaica say, do that what you did for them in the Bahamas, and we're going to fly you down every 2 weeks to Jamaica. So you get to stay, because you had fallen so in love with Indianola. You had this beautiful historic-like home, and you had begun to get involved in the music scene, and so you wanted to stay in Indianola over Jamaica. Imagine that.
Well, I liked the idea of being part of both worlds was nice. Yeah, exactly. And we had spent a great deal of time building up the business and in the Delta, and it was traveling, and it was beginning to get some momentum going behind it. It had taken me all over the world, actually. So yes, I knew he wouldn't be there forever. So we wanted
They're a
to
lot
keep
longer
that
than I
going.
intended
Yeah,
to be.
yeah.
It's going to be
years.
short. I didn't know it was going to turn out to be a 10-year thing.
Yeah. So
10 years, a whole
it's
decade.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. Mhm.
And you get to fly down every week and do this work, and then come back and do
And come
this
back.
new career in music that you love.
Yeah. What I would tell people, I was sitting here thinking, is that where you are at any given time doesn't mean that you have to be there the rest of your life. You know, the circumstances more than likely will change, or if they don't, you can find a way to make them change. So just accept the fact that life does change constantly, and you don't know what's around the corner. But don't despair when you go through some kind of tragedy. I didn't know when we hit that. I found out life isn't fair. I thought I had no clue that life is not fair, but it can be very unfair. So we've discovered you just you don't know what's next. But wherever you are, if it's not where you would prefer to be, it doesn't mean that you have to accept that it will be that way forever. Try to persevere through it.
Sage advice.
Yeah.
Sage advice.
We're having our 59th anniversary next month.
Yeah.
And I have people at the church was ask me about getting married when they find out we've been married 59 years, and they say, well, how in the world have you managed that? And
And you still like each other, and it's still
Yeah.
fun.
oh
It's
yeah,
fun,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. This has been a fun life. It's been up, down, and around, but it's been an interesting life, and we've taken out of it what joys we could, and the parts that weren't good, we just supported each other and got through it. We had lost a baby along the way, so we've had things happen that was tragic for us. But the thing is you gotta talk to your significant self every day. Devote a certain amount of time where all you do is talk. Even if they stay at home, you still got to talk about, well, how was your day at home, and go through it and all of that. And you have to really bolster each other all the time when you're going through these crises. You can't. A bad day is when both of you start agreeing how bad things are, and you don't have somebody that's optimistic and say, well, at least I'm gonna just throw it out. At least we have our health and all. We're healthy people. We can get a job doing something, In that case, back then, my thing is that I was known in the poultry industry, and I didn't have any trouble getting one, but you don't have poultry plants in every state, and you don't have them in every city, so you have to go where they are. So that took us to California. But we've been in Carolinas, we've been in different places because of my work carrying me there. And you just, like I said, it's all about, to me, the teamwork in the marriage that keeps people from going under.
The teamwork with you two made the dream work. And the dream is still going on. Ron and Carol Marble, it has been a joy and a delight to have you here with you and sharing your sage advice. Really happy anniversary. Thank you all so much for sharing your story with us in this audience. And thank you for joining me for this edition of Candid Conversations. I'm Cynthia Maxie Milton. Goodbye, everyone.